Hello, my name is Alyssa Wobig, and today I am going to be talking about a systems problem. The systems problem I will be talking about is the declining bee population. First, I will start my system with the stock, the bee population, and I will be representing the stock with this bumblebee. Second, I will add the outflows to my system. My outflows include disease and parasites, habitat destruction, pollution, and natural death. My outflows are red to remind viewers of their negative output towards the stock bee population. Third, I will add the inflow to my system. The inflow of my system is births. Births will be green to represent the positive nature of the inflow. Next, I will be adding converters, interconnections, and couplings to give further details of the system's problem. These additions will be gradual, building on top of each other, one by one. Each new addition will start off yellow, but will fade when moving on to the next set of components in the system. This will help viewers stay engaged and better focused on each component as they appear before focusing on the system as a whole. I will be starting with births and natural death first. I have added birth rate and death rate as converters. Birth rate is a converter of the inflow births. The birth rate will affect births by either increasing or decreasing the total births of the stock. Death rate is a converter of the outflow natural death. The death rate will affect natural deaths by either increasing or decreasing the total leaving the stock. Death by pollution, habitat destruction, and disease and parasites all affect the birth rate. Next, the pollution source is a converter of the outflow pollution. The source of the pollution determines how many colonies are affected. These sources can either be man-made or natural. Industrial agriculture and hive locations are both converters of pollution and of habitat destruction. The number of farmers in the area is a converter of industrial agriculture. This is because if the number of farmers is low, the rate of industrial agriculture will decrease. If the number of farmers in the area increases, then the rate of industrial agriculture will increase. This in turn will affect the overall stock of bee population. The rate of expanding monocultures is a converter of habitat destruction. If the rate is fast, habitat destruction is increased and the overall stock is lowered. If the rate is slow, habitat destruction is decreased and the overall stock is increased. Next, I added the chemical exposure converter. Chemical exposure is a converter of both habitat destruction and disease and parasites. If chemical exposure goes up, both habitat destruction and disease and parasites will go up. If chemical exposure goes down, both habitat destruction and disease and parasites will also go down. Climate change is a converter of disease and parasites as well. Increasing temperatures and erratic weather causes bee populations to become more susceptible to disease and parasites. The rate of carbon emissions is a converter of climate change because increased carbon emissions will in turn enhance the rate and effects of climate change. Next, I added the rate of proper nutrition converter. The rate of proper nutrition affects the outflow of disease and parasites and is affected by the chemical exposure converter. And lastly, to try and change the system, I added conservation, knowledge and compliance, and laws and regulations. Conservation of land, spreading information, and making lifestyle changes through knowledge and compliance will decrease negative outflows of pollution and habitat destruction. Through the laws and regulation converter, unsustainable industrial agriculture practices will decrease and in turn increase the overall stock bee population. And here is my final model with all of the inflows, outflows, and converters. If you would like, you can take a moment to pause the video and just look at all of the components. Otherwise, I will be moving on in a couple moments. All right, and for my proposed action points to improve this system problem is to ban the use of bee-harming pesticides and insecticides, introduce benefits or incentives for farmers who have sustainable farming practices, improve conservation efforts of natural habitats and enhance the biodiversity of plants for pollinators, and spreading knowledge of this system problem and comply with the changes that should be made to improve it. And then here are my sources. Thank you for watching.